It is absolutely imperative that you understand the role of your shoulder blade, formerly known as the scapula. Your scapula is the gateway of upper core training. It's also the gateway to connecting your upper quarter with your lower quarter because of its bony articulations with the arm, as well as its muscular connections with the thorax and rib cage. Therefore, a well-functioning scapula is absolutely key for effective load transfer. Now, there are muscles that attach from the scapula to various parts of the spine and the ribs. Each of these muscles serve a particular role, and it's quite complex. The main thing you need to know here is the following. Number one, your scapula moves in a variety of directions, and each direction is controlled by a subset of muscles. Number two, there is a primary muscle or groups of muscles that control specific direction of scapular motion depending on the direction you're moving and where you're starting from. If for whatever reason the primary muscle group or primary muscle does not optimally perform, there are other muscles that step in to help. Number three, because these muscles also attach to the spine and ribs, they impact the effectiveness of the deep and outer core muscles when they work together because they also attach here. So it's like a balance act. So let's now dive into each one of these 3 points a little bit deeper. One being your scapula moves in a variety of directions. Each direction is controlled and stabilized by a subset of muscles. So for the purpose of this course, I'm only going to talk about a few muscles that are functionally connected to the muscles that you've already learned about in previous videos, specifically the deep and outer core. Because I could go on, but I don't want, this is not the whole point, and the point is to get you to move right. Number one, scapular elevation, which is upward vertical motion of the scapula. So shoulder blades are on your back, they're moving straight up. What that looks like if you're looking in the mirror is this. It's just straight up. It's not up and in, it's just straight up. You can do that, but let's just keep it simple. Straight up. You use your upper traps here, and then your levator scapula, which attaches to a different portion of the spine. Upper traps is the center part of your neck and your head, whereas the levator scapula is on the sides here. And the upper trap attaches one place on the shoulder blade, while the levator scapula attaches another place. Scapular depression. So if these are your shoulder blades sitting on your back, going straight down. Downward vertical motion of the scapula. An example of this would be a downward motion of your shoulder blades during a lat pull down or a pull up. Muscles that help do this that are important for you to know are lower trapezius and the latissimus dorsi. Scapular adduction. So this, your shoulder blades are sitting on your back. They move inward horizontally towards the center of the spine. An example of this would be inward shoulder blade or scapular motion during a horizontal row or a T, or this motion that you'll see later. The muscles that you use here are middle trapezius, lower trapezius, and rhomboids. Notice my arms go for a ride. I could bring my arms back, but that's a completely different exercise if that's what I'm using it for. Scapular abduction. Outward, so if this is your back and these are your shoulder blades, outward motion, horizontal motion of the shoulder blade. An example would be rounding your shoulders, sort of. And the main muscle here is the serratus anterior, not pec, because notice it's the shoulder blade, it's not the arm. Scapular upward rotation. So upward arc or arch motion of the shoulder blades around the rib cage. Notice my middle fingers stay there. They're not moving out and upward, just upward. Serratus anterior, the upper fibers, are primary muscles of importance here. Scapular downward rotation. So if you're here, rotating down like this. Downward arching motion of the shoulder blade, scapula around the rib cage. And again, serratus anterior is part of this. There are other muscles that are part of this, like the rhomboids, the levator scapula. Scapular anterior tilt. So like the pelvis, the shoulder blade also tips. So if this is a side view of your shoulder blade, anterior tilt is this motion. So for me, it's like this. The main muscle that does this, and it's typically because it's tight, is the pectoralis minor, different, not to be confused from the pec major, and the subclavius muscle. Scapular posterior tilt now is backwards tipping of the scapula. Think of just gently lifting your chest without your spine or your ribs moving. So it's this motion. And the muscles that are responsible to do that are lower trapezius and serratus anterior. And it depends on where your shoulder blade is starting from. So whenever our moms say, stand up straight, this is not shoulder blade motion. And oftentimes that cue or to get into neutral, it's not always a combination of rib cage thrusting, shoulder blade motion, and thoracic extension, which that's what I'm doing right now. Oftentimes it's a little bit of adjustments in the shoulder blades and thoracic spine, or just one or the other. Number 2, there's a primary group of muscles or muscle that controls specific direction of scapular motion. If for whatever reason the primary muscle or group of muscles does not optimally perform, there are other muscles that step in to help. So the mechanics of your upper quarter are quite complex. For the purpose of this course, here is what you need to know. When you are pulling from a vertical position, like a lat pull down, for example, your shoulder blade should not elevate. It should move down, and in this case, down and in. Your upper traps should not bulge. Your compensations and your substitutions tell you what your imbalances are. And that is why I combined this course with a coaching call, because I don't expect you to know that and know each compensation. In the next videos, you are going to learn different positions and ranges and speeds of motions that you are going to execute in the upcoming videos.